Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, James Protin. Every week I will be sharing the experiences that have defined my journey and talking with people who have their own powerful story to tell. It's about doing better and being better in life, business, and all things in between. The visually inclined can catch us on YouTube, or you can check us out on just about every podcast platform. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. We are at a new location. We are at Cohatch in the waterfront, and really digging the new set, and maybe we may just have found a home here. So, but anyway, welcome. Thanks for joining us, and I cannot wait to share this story with you. Our guest this morning is Rodney Little. Rodney, thank you so much for joining us, my friend.
Hey, you're welcome.
I mean, I am so excited to hear your story. I'm kind of just going to get out of your way and let you roll, man. Just riff on it.
Well, thanks, James. I was really excited for the opportunity to come down to the waterfront to Cohatch here to meet with you and to share my story. I haven't been down here for a few years, and boy, I just want to say, if you guys haven't been down here for a while, stop down and see this place. It's amazing here. But thank you for the invitation. I greatly appreciate it. For everybody who's listening, I'm from Westmoreland County, so not terribly far away. Grew up in Penn Township, went to Penn Trafford, graduated in 99, knew that I wanted to do something different with my life, and I really wanted to travel, so I went into the Army. And signing a contract, the Army offered me at 17 years old $11,000 if I would agree to go to something called RIP school, which is Ranger training, and they also offered me to be able to go to any duty station I want around the world. So I picked Germany for a 4-year station. So that was a great venture to start my life out in my teens, going into my early 20s. Coming out of the Army, I found my way back to New York, New Jersey for about 3 years, working as a handler there with dogs on the ports. And
have dogs always been a part of your life?
Pretty much. Since a kid, I've always had dogs in the family. I've had a lot of law enforcement, including my mom, working dispatch, my uncles both being state police commanders, one active, one's retired. I have numerous family members for various government organizations, including CIA and FBI. And almost every male in my family line has been military of some sort. So I kind of knew it was bred into my family to kind of go into a working line of this sort. I just couldn't really figure out where I wanted to fall permanently into for the rest of my life, coming out of the Army in my mid-20s. Oh, everything always pulls me back home, and no matter how many times I leave, I find my way back to beautiful Southwest Pennsylvania. I guess I can't get enough of these 4 seasons and shoveling snow. I came back home, and I'm glad I did, because I eventually found my beautiful future wife, Laura, and our baby Walker, who is 20 months old now. My oldest son, Joshua, who was born in Germany overseas with me, is now 23, finishing his degree in biomedical chemistry and engineering. Coming back to Westmoreland County, eventually I fell into Youngwood Top Dog Services, which is my dog training company.
And you founded it.
Yeah, founder of that company in 2014. So we've been going for just over 10 years now, this past March. And started my first nonprofit in 2015, the Youngwood Dog Club. That was my very first 501c3.
Okay. And
eventually my whole life was just put on hold and came to a halt on July the 9th, 2016. That was 8 years ago, 3 days ago.
Yeah,
my accident, the anniversary happened. I was leaving my church in Youngwood, and at this time my wife
and I... a minister.
Yes. I was not at this time. So this all happened. I found my ministry after my accident, but at that time I was a member of Christ United Methodist Church in Youngwood. And thank goodness I was on my bike myself that day. My wife was not riding with me. We lived in Youngwood on the main road. They always say accidents happen close to home. This could not be truer. And the last thing I remember, I was going down Route 119, 3 blocks from home. I was going through the green light at Sheetz gas station, and that was it. Everything went black. As I was told would happen to me, a car with a couple from Maryland ran the red light, and they hit me in my right hip. And the impact immediately sent my Harley into a roll. My bike came up on me, and the impact of my bike instantly broke all of my ribs on my left side and right side. And it also cracked my sternum from top to bottom, so I wasn't able to eat, talk, breathe, anything on my own. The car itself went through the middle part of my body and ran me over and severed my right leg, and my femoral artery was completely detached from my body, and which led me to bleed out. The first thing I remembered is seeing the face of the man who saved my life. He's a paramedic named Josh Diaz, who I've had the pleasure of meeting a dozen times now, but it took almost 2.5 years after my accident to even learn who it was, thanks to Ken Baca, the former county coroner for Westmoreland County. Now he's the deputy chief commander of the mutual aid. He was able to access the old system records, and he found out who that man was that saved my life. And he introduced him to me firsthand while I was there that day for a cookout. And the emotions came. He introduced me to Josh Diaz, and Josh performed life-saving acts to bring me back to life, to stabilize me, and to get me off for my first of 9 emergency life-saving surgeries. So first Joshua Diaz, second Dr. Edric Westrick, who's a young, gifted surgeon who was on vacation that they called back in to rebuild my pelvis because my pelvis was completely shattered, to replace my left hip, and then to replace my right hip. I was almost like Humpty Dumpty because my whole body was stapled the whole way around with 172 staples to put me back together from my final surgery on my torso part of my body. I do remember after my third surgery having some family and a couple of pastors in the room with me, and I remember looking at my fingers, and they unwrapped it, and my index finger was just hanging. And I was on so many drugs that I wasn't feeling much pain, but I was slinging my finger, and I was like, are you going to do anything about this? And they said, sir, you got a lot more issues that we're dealing with right now. We will get to your fingers. But they ended up doing skin grafts on my fingers because I ended up doing a tuck and roll like we were taught in the Army, as if you were landing from an airborne jump. I put my arms around my head. The fingers took the blunt of the head trauma away from me from that accident. But the car also snapped my femur, my tibia, my fibia. I had so many other injuries that they weren't aware of at first because I was left paralyzed from waist down for almost the better part of 2 years after my surgeries. I had no feeling, and the biggest concern was the reason why I couldn't go home and I lived a better part of my life in the medical facilities was blood clotting. I was getting blood clots in my right leg. I was on Coumadin, and eventually, after I got to the point where I could lift my body up with my hands again, they agreed to let me go home and switch me to Lovenox shots, which had to be injected into my stomach twice a day for blood clots, and I couldn't do it. So God bless my wife for being the one to be my nurse, but I had to have nurses and doctors and therapists visit me daily at my house. I had no idea how many therapists there were, speech therapist, finger therapy. There's just so many different therapies that you go through, and I've been through 7 years of physical therapy now, and I feel so much better. I'll never feel normal. I'm beyond that, but I feel blessed. And the biggest nonprofit that I'll ever hope to create was my second one, the Top Dog Therapy Team, and that all started as a result of this tragedy, and it was born to a triumph.
And you were literally killed in that accident.
Yes, I was brought back and woke up, and that's why I was given this coin that I showed you that I pull up here. This is a life-saving coin that a paramedic will award you if they saved your life and they bring you back, and it's a service so others may live. And a lot of people don't know with mutual aid that their phone never shuts off. There is no holiday. They answer the call, and it might be over 1 million calls a year. They don't have to respond to all of them, but they always answer. And Joshua Diaz answered that call, and he brought me back. And he is a very advanced paramedic, so God put the right person there at the right time to do what he did.
Yes, absolutely.
To be able to just get me to the point to be stabilized and get to Forbes Hospital. And in the midst of my pain, in the midst of my storm, is truly where my therapy team was created. I didn't see it at the time. When I was at RNC, that's the Rehabilitation Nursing Clinic in Greensburg, that's where my long stint of recovery was. My dog, Sarge, who's the dog who's on all of our uniforms and badges, he was my Black German Shepard. At the time of my accident, he was a police dog. He was actively working missing person cases with me. And he was a working dog. When I didn't come home, after the 9th day of not coming home, and he would not leave that front door, he would not eat, he was just waiting for me. My wife got really concerned, so she brought him to the hospital. And I told her, bring food with you. As soon as he saw me, he ate food. She was able to take him outside, and she was able to bring him a In-N-Out for quite a few months at Forbes Hospital just so that he would start thriving again. And RNC allowed him to stay. It was wonderful. It just so happened that my eldest sister, Desiree, was one of the charge nurses on duty there, and she had my whole floor and my section, and me personally, my own sister, helping take care of me. But Sarge was there, and it was such a healing and a comfort for me because here I am in my mid-30s. I was in the best shape of my life. New business, second year, great nonprofit started. Therapy team wasn't there yet, but the dog club was. And now here I am finding myself not even able to brush my own teeth, looking like there's no hope. But Sarge, he didn't have to say anything to me to give me comfort. He gave me something that words couldn't give me. And I had so many people tell him, like, hey, I've seen so many people go through this, or I've had hips replaced, or I understand what you're going through. And those words fell on deaf ears at that time. But Sarge, that love, that attention, that affection, he didn't need words to communicate it. And there was no judging. He loved me for me. And that really started turning him into a service dog at that time and a therapy dog. So the first job for Sarge was therapy. I didn't see it. So I would get mad because people would come by my room up to 100 times a day, I counted, and they looked in to see the dog because it was new. They would come by their wheelchairs, they would look in, and say, hi, or go get him to perk his ears up. And I would be like, leave him alone. But it did something for them. I didn't realize it because it was doing it for me. It's powerful. But he was giving people inspiration. He was giving them hope. He was giving them a connection. He was breaking up that monotony. And after almost a year and 4 months of being in RNC, and I got sent back home in an ambulance transport with Sarge, I got to the point in the midst of my pain where I stopped asking God to change my circumstances, and I asked him to use my circumstances to change me. And he did. That's where the Top Dog Therapy team was truly born. He gave me the idea as a dog trainer.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He gave me this idea of being a dog trainer, having that knowledge, taking the idea of the comfort that Sarge gave me at my worst and using it. And after he saw fit to start giving me feeling back in my legs, I got to the point where I was going from the bed to the wheelchair to the walker. All along the way, Sarge helped me as a service dog. He was my mobility service dog. He stabilized me. He pulled my chair. He helped me. So he had a second job, a second life. But God wasn't done yet. He kept me going. And I got to the point where I could walk, and I didn't need Sarge anymore. And that's where he spoke to me and said, take Sarge and use him. Sarge still has a purpose. He might not be a police dog. He might not be a handler doing these cases. He might not be pulling your wheelchair anymore, but he still has a purpose, and so do you. And I took him back to RNC where I used to stay. And I said, can I visit some people? Because he had a knack for feeling out people who were broken, who were downtrodden, who were hopeless. And he wanted to pick them up. It was his new job. I didn't know the science or the facts behind it, the data that I know now, but I could see miracles firsthand happening. And Sarge took the most broken people and put a smile on their face. And though they might not remember my name or Sarge's name, they always remembered the way that Sarge made them feel. And that always stuck with me with every therapy dog that we now put through our program. And I took that idea and invited a second friend out who thought it was a cool idea, Scott and Stella. And then my friend Sharon with her dog Ruby, who's now the vice president of my organization, with her second dog, Penny, because Ruby is now working in heaven with my dog Sarge, who's been up there for 2 years. And Sarge became the first working therapy dog. We got up to 5, and we said, we got something special. We were visiting all through RNC, doing short-term, long-term, rehabilitation, hospice, physical therapy. We got to the point where more people wanted to join, and we were like, we really got something. So I applied for articles of incorporation. I turned us into a nonprofit. I got us uniforms. We ended up getting our 501c3 charitable status to make us a complete federally tax-free entity. And now in the past 7 years, we have put over 400 dogs through our training program. We have visited over 4,000 facilities in Southwest PA, and we visited over 60,000 people. Most importantly, we touched over 60,000 lives. And we work in multiple branches. The backbone of our program was always medical, hospitals, nursing homes, cancer treatment centers. We go to Mount Washington, to nursing homes and treatment centers up there. We work with special needs centers like Acme Incorporated, Clelian Heights, so many different places. The second one in our largest entity now is going to be educational. We have such a passion to work with kids and for children. We have over 30 autism centers that we work with our dogs, which is just amazing to see kids open up and communicate. We have over, I want to say, 150 school districts and schools in Southwest Pennsylvania that we frequent, from preschools, elementary, middle school, high school, and colleges, from public to private sector schools. Education is huge for our team. We have reading programs for kids that are accredited to give them the credits they need to get through their year to the next year. We have reading programs for autistic and special needs children. We have another branch of our team that specializes in recovery. We do detox, recovery, and psych ward visits. And those ended up being some of my favorite visits: McKeesport, detox, and recovery. Some of those people take that 1 hour with the dogs, and they will hang on to that hope for the rest of their lives. And I love seeing that work.
How did the bereavement team come around?
The bereavement team came up probably about 4 years ago. The first time a place reached out to us and said, we experienced a tragedy. We have a young girl who's in elementary school that was hit and struck waiting for her school bus to come.
It was tragic. I'm familiar with that. It happened very close.
Bell Vernon.
Yeah,
and a pastor contacted us from a church down there, and she said, you guys have therapy dogs. Would you be able to help us with a vigil and do a bereavement? And working with therapy, we work under a lot of stressful conditions, and this one was a new one because it was so difficult having so many kids firsthand witness this tragedy, including her older brother. And then hearing the impact speakers, the person who was driving the car, to the older brother, to the next door neighbor, to the best friend, hearing 6-year-olds talk about the tragedy, and moved us to be part of that through the pouring rain the entire time. I don't think there was a dry eye that you couldn't tell from the rain.
I remember that day.
That was really the time that the Top Dog Canine Bereavement Team was born. We knew we had something special, but the big difference between our therapy dogs and our bereavement dogs was our therapy dogs are scheduled well in advance. We know where we're going. We know when we're going. We know how many dogs are going. We know who's in charge. Sure. We know what trainer's there, because we always have top dog trainers with us as well. But bereavement, when death happens, when tragedy happens, we don't know when life hits us. So we formed a team where people can contact us 24/7. And I've had superintendents call me at 3 a.m. and my wife will say it's the emergency phone. It's the only one that the ringer is actually on. I don't know what my cell phone ringer sounds like. It's always on silent because it's always beeping or ringing.
Sure.
But the bereavement phone is there for multiple emergency venues that can contact us if there's an officer-involved shooting. Even a tough night for EMS where they may have had 2 overdoses or 3 deaths, fire tragedies, any of these things like the Jeanette fire victims can be or call for a bereavement. And these bereavement dogs start as therapy dogs. They have to be on the team for minimum 2 years as certified therapy dogs. Then we put them through extra test and extra temperament exposures to make sure that they can be on the scene of an accident where there's police sirens, where there's screaming, where there's a lot of blood, where maybe somebody was killed. And we make sure that we have the highest trained handlers. In fact, every bereavement handler goes through a year-long school to become a certified bereavement therapist.
Can you do this with any breed of dog, or your specific breeds that you focus on?
That's a great question. So whether it's therapy, service, canine bereavement dogs, crisis response dogs, sometimes they're referred to as well, it's all about the dog. Just like the person for any job, you don't like to say that, hey, this person works better. Right. Same thing for dogs. I don't discriminate with dogs. However, I will say there's more popular breeds. Our most popular is Golden Retriever, by far. They have the loving temperament for all ages. Kids,
it's probably the most closest to a perfect, created, perfect dog that you could find.
Then your doodles. And there's probably 40 different types of doodles now that are crossbred, but the golden doodles.
How do you explain that any dog you mix with a poodle becomes better?
Yeah. So
the poodle makes everything better.
So the biggest thing about the poodle is you're going to get extraordinary intelligence and you're going to get extraordinary energy drive. And the thing about energy drive is, take a basset hound or a bulldog. They don't have any energy drive. You could walk them to the car and they need an inhaler for 10 minutes to recover from the walk that you just took, or to the mailbox, whatever the case is. When you have a poodle, they have that working drive. When a dog has a high working drive, that gives them trainability. And trainability means they could do a job like bereavement, because when our golden doodle, Harper, for example, she is a 90% poodle, 10% golden retriever. When she did the Sarah Catholic High School bereavement, it was a 3-hour gathering that we did. Our average therapy dog works 1 hour at a time. 3 hours meeting over 1,000 people with people hugging you, wailing on you, emotionally just crying for 10 minutes, how much that takes out of your body. Imagine 3 hours of dealing with that. These dogs are extraordinarily trained, extraordinarily intelligent, and the doodles have that working drive. Now, sometimes you get a lot of working defiance or a lot of stubbornness too. So being able to do a temperament test is key. And that's where we always start, because a lot of people, they want their dogs to be therapy dogs, or they want their dog to be a service dog, but the dog, they don't want to be. It's like, you want your kid to play baseball, but they hate sports. No different than with dogs. So we temperament test, and we make sure they have that right personality, that right temperament to be that working dog. And I will say, we only pass 25% of the dogs for all of our service or therapy programs. 75% don't have what it takes to be part of our program. There's nothing against the dog. It's just against their temperament, personality. It doesn't have what it takes. And it's nothing than a job. If you want the best, you want the elite, you want the best school, the best trained, you're not going to hire 75%. You're going to hire 25% or less. We're not the flight academy. We're not a 2%, but still, our bereavement team's closer to that. We're under 10% for our bereavement team, because not every dog can deal with that kind of stressful situation. But we have 12 highly trained dogs and highly trained handlers, and that's something I want to touch base on too. It's important. What makes the Top Dog Therapy team different than Alliance of Therapy Dogs or TDI Therapy Dogs, Therapaws? There's so many organizations out there, and they're all wonderful. We all have the same mission, essentially. Our mission is to utilize highly trained canines to promote love, attention, and affection with hope and healing. But collectively, our mission is to serve our communities, to offer something that humans can't with canine love. But what makes us truly unique is our training. Not only do we have training to start, and our training isn't lick 'em and stick 'em, meaning people just can't come and say, hey, I have some money, can you give us the best to make us a therapy dog? No, your dog has to do the work. Just like your kid, if you want them to be a doctor, they're not going to say, here's your degree. It's not like that used to be. You can't just make a large donation to a foundation and say, here you go, you get into the best school. You need to show us that you can do it on paper. You need to prove to us that you can do these things, and our program is no different. Our Top Dog trainers are some of the best, highest quality trainers in Southwest PA that oversee the program, and they make sure every handler, whether they're in training or whether they're certified, that they always get guidance, they always get continued education, and they always have somebody there to help them if and when they need it. That's forever. It never stops. Just like a teacher or any job, you don't get your certification, they say, here you go, we'll see you in 30 years when you retire. And it's such a wonderful thing to see how much a dog can do, not just for your mental health, but for your physical health as well. And that's the next part of the study that UCLA released. Just 20 minutes a day can impact your health for an entire lifetime if you spend 20 minutes a day with a dog, by 30% increase in overall well-being. That is huge. It's not a drug. It's not a supplement. That is man's best friend. It's like standing in sun. You get vitamin D. Pet a dog. You're getting anxiety relief. Breathe in your nose, out your mouth, interocepta. You're breathing in pure oxygen, breathing out carbon monoxide. There's a certain way you can do things, and dogs have been there since the beginning of time. We were blessed with them for multiple things, and I think along the way, we lost it, and now we're picking it back up.
And you know what? We don't deserve it.
Yeah, that's exactly
We really don't deserve it. Listen, we're running out of time, but I really... Listen, I thank you so much.
Oh, it's an honor and a privilege. It really is.
So the honor is ours. Trust me.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing, and we definitely are going to collaborate in the future, because I'm blown away not only by your story but by you, young man.
Thank you. God has truly had His hand on me and blessed me. So thank you.
Well, God bless you. Thank you for joining us and sharing your story, man.
It's a pleasure.